New Zealand got a mention! Yes, that was the best part of this episode. No, it wasn't. I'm just kidding. Welcome back to the James A channel. This is the review of Wish World. Make sure to watch this story before you watch this review because there is going to be spoilers. My hair's a mess, but doesn't matter because that's the first part of the finale done. And it flew by for me. Honestly, the pacing was really good. It went by so quickly. Maybe not heaps and heaps got done in that 45 minutes, but I enjoyed it overall. And perhaps it will be divisive, the certain, well, I've given you your spoiler warning, so I'm just going to say it. The certain return of Omega and the Rani properly in this story might cause a bit of division in terms of how you take that news. Are you happy to see that Omega is going to return? Personally, I'm not fussed because it's a case of, well, we got 45 more minutes of the season, then we're done with it. How much are they going to do with Sutik, with Omega? God, Sutik, that was last season. That's a whole nother story. But actually, on the topic of Sutik, he got about 45 minutes and not much happened with him. So I'm kind of thinking the same will happen here. There's been so much build-up over the last 2 seasons with lots of little elements linking to this. So I think it was a good reveal. Again, a little dull in the sense that the Rani was the boring answer for Mrs. Flood's identity, and who's someone who's been waiting? Omega. Alright. Yeah, makes sense. He hasn't been there since 1982 or whenever Arkham City aired, so that makes sense. Yeah, we're going to get into the story and just go through some of the plot points and overall thoughts, and make sure to subscribe. If we can get to 700 subscribers by the end of next week, by the end of the series, that would be amazing. So please help me out with that, guys. And yeah, the start is really good. It's shows someone riding a horse in the forest. They go to this house where there's some loony, and he's had a lot of kids. So good on the guy. And it turns out the woman on the horse is the Rani, Archie Punjabi's Rani, not Mrs. Flood's Rani. She doesn't get much to do in this, which is a bit of a shame, but we'll come to that all in due course. And essentially, the kid gets snatched off this woman, the baby. She's just had this baby, and I mean, it's a bit random. Just these 2 people, they just have this baby in the forest. How they do all of the, I don't know, birth stuff with cutting cords and cleaning blood and all that grim stuff, I don't know. Maybe she didn't just have it, like he made it sound. I don't know why I'm talking about a woman giving birth. The baby's taken, it's implied that it's very important, and it's a bit like, the opening reminded me of Human Nature, but we get this quite interesting scene to start, and then suddenly, all of a sudden, it just cuts to the Doctor just living as John Smith, and the Doctor being John Smith, it did naturally make me just think of David Tennant doing it for Human Nature, Family of Blood. I watched that story not that long ago, and yeah, David Tennant, I mean, Shooting Out was good here, but no competing with that. That's one of the great performances. But the Doctor, he's watching his TV in bed. Him and Belinda are married, and they share a little kiss, and they're watching TV, and Conrad is on it, and he's got a book, and it's meant to be like a Harry Potter rip-off book about a guy called Doctor Who, linking into the meta stuff a bit. I mean, whatever, I'll look past it. I'm not a massive fan of the meta stuff, but it's fine. It's not a central element of the story, really. And that all goes into the title sequence, and for anyone who didn't know she was back, yeah, Millie Gibson's in the title sequence. And we see her pretty quickly on because she comes knocking on the door of the Smiths, and she's not quite sure why she's doing it, but it's something about the Doctor. She wants to find him, and they start calling the police because she's having doubts, and yeah, Ruby goes off, and the Doctor and Belinda, they're like drinking tea, having breakfast or whatever, and like whenever essentially the whole idea, I mean, it's pretty obvious early on what's going on, but essentially whenever they have an idea as to what's going on, as soon as they have a doubt, a glass smashes. There's not a glass bottle, just a mug smashes, and it's meant to, I guess, reset them, make them stop thinking about whatever they were doubting. So that was a kind of a fairly obvious element. It's a bit of a random element, but it leads into a pretty important scene of a certain character saying why tables don't work like that. And we'll come to his appearance. Again, a lot going on here. But the Doctor arrives at what is meant to be Unit, but it's not Unit. What is his job there? I don't know. It would have been nice if they just said he was some sort of scientific advisor, just because that's what he was in the classic series, and I think he still kind of is. He never actually resigned from that role, I don't think, so they should have just said something like that. But Susan Triad has given out the coffee. What am I doing right now? I'm just getting the episode up, just make sure I remember talking about, just so I talk about everything. But yeah, Susan Triad is making the coffee for people. I haven't seen her for a whole season, so, and also haven't seen, I don't think we've seen, oh, you might be able to hear that. I do not think we've seen Shirley since last season, so she was another good one to have back. And I'm just looking through, but this the Rani is arriving, and the Doctor expresses doubt. He's like, I wonder who she is or something. And everyone looks at him, and the whole thing is, anytime someone has a doubt, they just get looked at like, what the hell are you doing, mate? So interesting that they're acting that way. Again, how have they been, like, their minds been conditioned to think that way? How is any of this an actual reality? It's not quite made clear. It's going to get revealed in the second part, I'm sure. Although, these days, is it going to get revealed? Maybe not. But we just know that it's something to do with this reality with that baby. It's also around this time that we have Belinda, and she's with her. We finally see her mum and her auntie as well. Got to have her auntie in there. And they're asking her about, does she remember giving birth? Because the whole point is that Belinda and the Doctor, their child is Poppy. And this is Poppy who was in Space Babies, who was in The Story in the Engine very briefly. So there's a bit of a mystery about how they have this baby and why is she important. It's interesting that, yeah, the baby that Conrad has and their baby Poppy, well, she's not a baby, but it's interesting that the young ones are the important ones. So if you're a young Doctor Who fan, then you're probably an important Doctor Who fan. Maybe that's the commentary, guys. I figured it out. Oh my god, crazy. Also around this time as well, before we go to that, with Belinda, she can't remember when she gave birth. So we get this bizarre sequence of her just running off, and she starts screaming into a forest. And I was like, oh, has she figured it out? What's going on? Everything goes back to normal for her after that. But it was a weird scene of her just going to a forest and screaming. It was a bit random. Also, what I started the video off with, New Zealand getting a mention, Conrad is just talking about the weather. And that's around the start. And he's saying, oh, the weather is good in Africa and Missouri and New Zealand. So, we take that. New Zealand, how many mentions do we get? Probably once about every 20 years or so. We were mentioned in Voyage of the Damned. The Doctor talked about, like, the great views here or whatever. But that's pretty much it. So, any New Zealand mention, we take those. Because Australia gets quite a bit. I only had one the other day, and Lucky Day, talking about Sydney. So, yeah. The stuff with Conrad, we find out a bit more because it cuts to in this big base that's made out of bones and stuff. Because there's also, like, dinosaurs walking around London. It's really cool. Why is that the case? I don't really know. I'm just guessing it's a little callback to, in the Mark of the Rani, when the Rani was sort of experimenting with dinosaurs, and she went back to the Cretaceous era, which I only remember because I did a recent video on Who Was the Rani, Doctor Who Mysteries, 3rd installment. Make sure to watch it somewhere there, wherever I can put the recommendation. But don't want to drift too much, because Susan Twist, not Susan Twist, god, so many characters in this, I'm losing my head. But Mrs. Flood, now, this is a problem I do have with the story, and to be honest, it didn't even cross my mind when the revelation of the bi-generation occurred, but it's a bit of a flaw now, and it's the fact that, essentially, Archie Panjabi, it has all the good lines, all the big scenes, And Anita Dobson, who's been there for 2 seasons worth, gets to make sandwiches. And it didn't even look like that good a sandwich. It just looked like a bit of bread and some ham. It didn't even look like... Anyway, the sandwich is not the point here. The point is that Mrs. Flood deserves better justice from Mrs. Flood. She... why am I calling her Mrs. Flood? She's the Rani now. She's the 3rd incarnation of the Rani. But the point is, she should be having more to do. And it's... You can tell she's a bit pissed off, I'd be. But I'm hoping maybe in that second one, she gets a bit more agency, a bit more to do. It's probably going to be some dumb twist of she's fed up sucking up to the 4th Rani, so she ends up saving the day and helping the doctor and some crap like that. I'm going to look smart if that ends up happening, but I hope it doesn't. Yeah, she's talking to Conrad, and he's pretty content with... I don't even know what, but the word is as he wants it, so that's good, I suppose. And the Rani, the main Rani, the 4th Rani, Archie Punjabi Rani, is all talking about how at midnight, right? You know, Russell T Davies, Series 4, David Tennant, The Well, the Midnight Entity Return in The Well. Yeah, well, midnight here, when it goes to May 24th, that's the big deal. And Midnight Entity, is that returning? Was that meant to be a nod? It's a bit random. But the whole deal is that May 24th is when shit goes down. And we will find out it does. I keep jumping around here, so bear with me. But Ruby is doing more investigating, and it feels like we're entering... It feels like the opening scene of a mini-series when she just joins these people. She joins Shirley and Bingham and some of these other disabled people who are kind of live on the outskirts. They kind of are left to fend for themselves almost. And essentially they're like, you figured it out, do you want to join us? And Ruby just has a smile, and it's like, oh, we're going into a title sequence for a new show. Forget the war between the land and the sea. This is the detective agency of Shirley and Millie. Not Millie, of Ruby and Shirley. That's what it feels like we're going into. And it kind of feels like their whole investigating part is going to have a lot of relevance to the plot, but going forward a bit to show what happens with them, they have this plan of, oh, we can get to Conrad. Reminds me a bit of the Sound of Drums. The doctor's like, if we can get to the Master, maybe we can cancel things out. They don't get to Conrad, they just get forgotten. They have like one scene near the end, and then we don't even know what happens with them. It's not like they get caught trying to you know, get Conrad. What are they going to do with Conrad? It sounds like Millie just wants to look at him for whatever reason, so it's a bit... I just feel like they could have done more with them. There's a lot of flashbacks in this as well. Millie... I keep calling her Millie. Ruby has flashbacks of being with Conrad. There's flashbacks of the Rani as well. The Rani from Dimensions in Time. It's canon. Yes! Always knew it should be. All of you, mostly probably classic series fans, who didn't think Dimensions in Time would ever be canon, well, guess what? It is now. I always wanted it to be. Oh, it's a shit show. It looked very good though, and I guess they have the rights to Dimensions in Time, because I always thought it was a case of, oh, it was a charity special, you can't make money off it. Well, clearly now they've made some sort of agreement, so the Wilderness Years collection set, it's coming, guys. That was probably my favourite bit of the episode. Not to... This is going to sound like I'm shitting on it, but genuinely, the Dimensions in Time, that little scene, I'm pleased with that, and I like the fact that some people are gonna pretend that didn't happen, just like they pretend Dimensions in Time didn't happen. But I'm pleased with that, and the quality looked good, so that's reassuring for the collection set. Because spilt my water there. Talking too much. The version that you can see of Dimensions in Time is not great quality because it's on YouTube, so yeah, to see it in good quality is nice. Now, I'm going to go, because I usually, when I do these reviews, I just have a brief look along, I scroll, and we are up to the scene where the Doctor is up late at John Smith. The Doctor, there, that's the equivalent of a mug breaking, because I was having a doubt. Yeah, no, it's not the Doctor, it's John Smith. And John Smith is I'll get my replacement thing that doesn't have a sonic screwdriver anymore, but I've just got a cupboard full of these, so I can just easily replace them. John Smith, he's looking at the TV, and all of a sudden Conrad, talking, but it's a guy that this was my live reaction to it. I was thinking, it's a guy. I know this guy. I probably don't. Oh wait, I do. It's Rogue. Yeah, Rogue. He's back. So I just don't care, to be honest. But I mean, look, he was an alright character. I just thought it was a bit shit that he and the Doctor loved each other after about 40 minutes. One of the few missteps of this era, probably just unrealistic stuff like that. But I suppose I can't say much because I like Human Nature, and the Doctor, John Smith, falls in love with Joanne in that one, so I can't say too much. But yeah, Rogue is back. Oh, there's so many characters back, and some finales, when you get characters back, it is quite a nice feeling. It ramps up the tension, but maybe this time just a few too many characters coming back. But look, Rogue's back. I'm sure some people will be happy with it. He's probably going to get about 2 minutes of screen time in the next one, because I know the next one's like an hour and a bit, but it seems like they've got so much to cram in. And the Doctor seems like he's figured it out, because he starts saying to Belinda, look, I'm not going to keep dropping that, but look, if I keep having doubts or something, the cups go through the table. So it seems like he's figured it out. But this last 20 minutes or so, I was really confused, because it keeps seeming like the Doctor's reverted back to himself, but then he's John Smith, but then he's it was so much of that I didn't really like that. I liked that in Human Nature and the Family of Blood, John Smith was just John Smith right until the end. He was slowly being convinced, but he never had moments where his mind sort of slipped. He was just confused most of the time. With this, Shooting Outward goes from Doctor to John Smith too much, and it kind of ruined the finale at the end. Because even at the end of the story, he's like, but I have a child. I thought you're the Doctor. Why are you insisting you have a child? Why? Obviously you don't have a child. Or maybe you do have a child, because we're going to get answers to how he has a grandchild in Susan in the finale. Because Susan gets mentioned here, but she doesn't actually have anything to do. So it's also crossing my mind. This is a very rambling point. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But you know what? All of a sudden I'm thinking, Susan, is Carol Ann Ford, after all this, going to just get wasted? Because remember, Susan was not left in the current day. She was left in 2150 AD, or whenever Dalek Invasion of Earth was set. I get confused between the actual story and the film. So, is she going to have a TARDIS that she can go back to this time or something? I don't know. But just make sure with Susan that she's actually in her right time stream. So, it's around I'm just looking, the 28-minute mark. And that's when everything starts to happen, because Belinda gets the Doubts police and gets the Doctor taken. She too gets taken. Didn't even mention that Mel's in this, but yeah, she's there when they're getting escorted away. Mel's had piss all to do in this story. But they've got so many characters, I'm not really surprised. Yeah, the Doctor and Belinda, or is it Belinda and John Smith, I suppose, because at this point they're not actually reverted back to themselves, but yeah, they get taken up to that sky tower, and it's when all this reveal with everything happening with the Rani happens, and there's like these robots there. I don't even know why I'm mentioning the robots, but yeah. Also in the Rani's, I guess, lair or hideout, there's the seal of Rassilon, or just a Gallifreyan seal, whatever. But that's there, so I thought that was cool, because I like the classic series, so yeah. But, I mean, the set itself is cool enough. I like that with the bone, and again, the Rani's sort of into neurochemistry and sort of tampering with bits of biology, so I like that it feels like it kind of ties into it Again, I don't know what the point of the dinosaurs were, but that's fine. Because, yeah, the Doctor and Rani have a little dance, and she says, "Will we lovers? Will we?" And there needs to be a bit of ball tickling there. They weren't lovers. If you've seen the Doctor Mysteries video, the Doctor asked her out, so maybe he had a little crush on her, but she rejected him. She was having an affair with the War Chief, so I don't think they were lovers. But maybe they're going to change tiny little bits of lore like that, and it's not the end of the world, but I just thought I'd be a bit of a nerd and point that out. Yeah, well, at least in that sort of final confrontation, Archie Punjabi is really she is the standout of the story, I want to say. Shooting out, like, he's fine. The regulars, they're fine. Willie Gibson, she's fine. But Archie Punjabi is definitely the standout here. I would argue that she probably carries the episode. I don't know how popular she is. I think it's kind of tricky because I wasn't sure watching it if she was trying to be Kate O'Mara or if she was just trying to be faithful to Kate O'Mara. And it's not a problem if she was trying to be Kate O'Mara. It just means that maybe you're not being creative with the part. But the way that she did it reminded me a lot of Kate O'Mara. And it's not a problem because that is how the Rani should be done. Kate O'Mara will never be topped as the Rani. Just like Delgado will never be topped. Will Hart will never be topped. I mean, he's very close to the top of the list for me for Doctors. But maybe once or twice. The other actors were better than him, but Hartnell's day was good. I'm drifting. So, she is very good as the Rani, but at least towards the end, Mrs. Flood... I keep calling Mrs. Flood. At least towards the end, Anita Dobson as the third Rani, she gets some more stuff to do, and it's a bit depressing because I'm just thinking... The more I think about this, the more I'm thinking that because last year I really liked The Legend of Ruby Sunday, and then it fell apart. And I'm thinking, this time, it seems like they've got a lot more to try and get done in an hour. So I'm a little bit worried. But as we approach, well, the last 5 or so minutes, we get the effects are really nice in the whole story, but particularly when the world is like falling away. Look, the cliffhanger, it was... I did like last year's one with Sutek. This one was okay. It's essentially the Doctor gets left behind on the balcony, and there's just these weird explosives that disconnect it, and he's plummeting down, and he's talking about, oh, she's not my kid, and this stuff, and we go into the to be continued, and well, that's pretty much it for the story. And I've got to be honest, because I did really enjoy watching it, but it's as I talk about it now that maybe I see some of the flaws. But yeah, you know, I couldn't say it was the best story of the season. I think that it would be a bit harsh to the well to say that this was better. But I did actually really enjoy this one, just because I'm glad that the Rani, even if Anita Dobson's being wasted, I'm glad they're taking the Rani in a direction that's good for her. Although, I still think that the Rani is not obsessed with the Doctor like the Master, but here, her plan is a bit of a Master level plan. The Rani being in with all these gods, I personally don't buy that. I just think the Rani with Kate O'Mara, Dimension of the Time is a tricky one, because she was a bit obsessed with the Doctor, and it was a very Master-like plan there. But in the proper run of appearances, she was doing a little experiment, the Doctor comes along, ruins everything, and this is on such a scale that you can't go for a small, self-contained story like the Kate O'Mara ones with the 6th and 7th Doctors. So, I also, with the nature these days, if you're going to bring the Rani back, you're not going to bring her for a small, inconsequential story. You've got to go all or nothing. So they have gone all. Will we get all or nothing in the finale? Is it all going to come together? It's really tricky. And, I mean, it is difficult because I think other finales have had a lot to get done. Stolen Earth and Journey's End. The Journey's End had a lot to get done. I think it just about got away with it. I don't mind that one. The Big Bang for the Series 5 finale, that had a lot to do I thought it stuck the landing. The Wedding of River song was very crap, in my opinion. So, just a couple of examples of finales that maybe did or didn't go great when they went all or nothing. This one, I think, will be amongst those in that category. The reality will be in the category of the one that had to tie everything up. And just like Empire of Death last year, I think there was a lot of doubts going into it. The Empire of Death did not succeed, unfortunately. So this one I do have doubts, just like last year. But I'm optimistic, because this episode was really good. I would give it an 8.5 out of 10, which is probably a bit high, but I did really enjoy it, and it's probably my second favourite of the season. I've got to admit, though, quality-wise, maybe it isn't the second best, but I do have a guilty pleasure for the first parts of the finales. Bad Wolf I love, Army of Ghosts I love, Sound of Drums or Utopia, either one, I love both of them. Stolen Earth is really good. Pandora opens, so I naturally just love those. When you get all those reveals and the gradual build up, because there's always big cliffhangers for these. So I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did as well. Those are my thoughts on Wish World, the first part of the season 2 finale. Is Shooting Out we're going to be leaving in the next story? I don't think so. And even though he's not one of my favourites, I kind of hope he doesn't, because I think it would be a bit of a shame, especially for the future of the show. But anyway, moving on. What's going to happen with the Rani? What's going to happen with the kids that are all important? What's going to happen with Omega, with Rogue, with the unit lot, with... I don't know, is the Midnight Entity going to return? There's so much to do. And, well, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. I hope you guys enjoyed. That's pretty much all from me. I probably forgot a lot, but... this review, we're looking at about half an hour, pushing half an hour for this review, and a lot to cover as well. So I did my best. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe so we can get to 700 subs. It would mean a lot to me, guys. And I will see you later.